Hello and welcome to the Gearycast, the Malaga podcast for all the Gearys out there. You are listening to us on the Sports Social Podcast Network. I'm Nick Bell, your host for today, and we are here to review this weekend's game against Mirandes. Malaga picking up yet another point in the La Liga high promotion Spanish second division. And to talk through this game and all the latest news from La Rosaleda with me is the one and only Alex Ashmore. You're over there. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. I got my weekend, Monday and Tuesday, as is the life of working in the football industry. I can't complain. But yeah, nice to have a few days off, and as ever, very warm in Madrid.
It is. Saturdays are busy when you are the premier Nigerian and Ghanaian sports provider of all things Spain, England, and Italy, if I remember rightly, Alex.
Everything. We've got Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A. We've got sports that I've never even heard of. We've got a bit of everything, to be honest.
And what did you go with your predictions this weekend, or did you veer away from the mark on predictions this time?
To be honest, actually, in terms of general, the one that I did have that went well, I said that I think Brighton could pull off a result against Manchester United, and they did.
And they did, yeah. Last gasp header from João Pedro, wasn't it, if I remember rightly? And the man who thinks Ghana means I'm Ghana to the pub, it's Chambers. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad, Todd. Thank you very much. A bank holiday Monday here in Alblighty. This must be quite strange, actually, Alex, because usually it's you who has the 14,000 bank holidays in Spain. But this is our fifth one of the year, Luke. We spent it quite nicely.
Yeah, it's just a normal day to me. We, unfortunately, in the British steel supply, we have to work bank holidays. Our fun comes at Christmas time. That's when we get our bank holidays, I suppose.
I'll just get them all up and have Christmas off. That's not too bad. I had to pick which one I wanted, whether it was this one or one in May. So I went for August because I thought I knew I'm coming back from holiday and I can't go straight back into work. You got to dip your toe back in, haven't you? So yeah, and on Saturday we all stayed up late to watch Malaga play. It was a 9:30 kickoff in the Costa del Sol. Just to bring you some news from Malaga to begin with, just to update you on a couple of injuries that were sustained in that match. Both Kevin, who went off around the 35th, 37th minute, incidentally was replaced by Julian Lobetti, and then Lobetti going off with a much more serious looking and sounding injury, Alex, sort of right halfway through the second half. Luke, I've not had any update on where Kevin's up to. I knew they were sending him for medical tests because he felt a bit of a pain on his hamstring, wasn't he?
Yeah, I've not come across anything yet. Basically waiting for some scan reports to come back to see the severity of it. Hopefully it's not too long at all.
No, I was going to say a pulled hamstring is quite usual, especially with the intensity that Kevin was playing at in the first half of that match, to be fair. So hopefully he's not out for too long. Alex, the more serious one on this one is obviously our new man from Celta Fortuna. Recently signed on board, comes with a lot of promise and a lot of experience at this level as well for a young head. He is facing a longer spell on the sidelines, isn't he?
Yeah, I believe I was looking at this is one of the things that's always interesting when it comes to injuries and reading how the Spanish write it, because they go very specific compared to the English of he's got an injury in his right foot, or in this case, it was a fracture in the such and such a bone in the left foot above I'm not a medical expert in any way whatsoever. But yeah, I think injuries of any kind are never good, and especially in this day and age where the football does come thick and fast. Obviously, I know at the moment we're playing Saturday. We're not playing in the midweek, which is good. But yeah, I think it's never a nice thing to see an injury, but every cloud does have a silver lining. Although these two aren't really linked, Hightown back on the field was definitely a plus.
Yes, it was interesting to see him back in the matchday squad, which I'll certainly pull upon that thread later. A fractured metatarsal is what I put it down to, which fortunately for Lobetti isn't going to require surgery, but it does mean a lengthy spell on the sideline saw him. Probably not going to see him now before the turn of 2025, I would say, Luke. Kike Perez has previously said, obviously, we were done in the transfer market. We weren't looking at bringing anybody else in after Castell. With this injury, maybe with the thought of Hightown coming back from injury a bit earlier, do we need to maybe sign an extra man just on a short-term deal, would you say?
I dare say Kike is going to stick to his words. I think at Malaga, we are very fortunate that we have got a fantastic youth academy, and we've got players such as Antonito who can come and step in. So I think it's a big time for Antonito. Like we've mentioned in the summertime, Hightown coming back is going to be like a new signing. I just hope we don't rush him too quick, because we know how important he's going to be for the 42 games, is it, this season, rather than 3 or 4 weeks now and then miss 3 or 4 months again. Yeah,
he's got to be managed back. And I think, to be fair, it was good to see him back on the bench, but I don't think even he expected to be involved on Saturday in any capacity. But speaking of Saturday, we had an attendance officially released. Now, again, I don't know if we're going to call bullshit on this one at all, boys, but the official line was 26,006 people. We've sold 26,500 season tickets, plus I believe we were down to the last 300 tickets to be sold just before kickoff. So have we had a mass staying away here, Alex, or is this a miscalculation in your eyes?
It's always hard to tell. I'm trying to find it now that David Picon put out a stat saying how many season ticket holders had, shared their season ticket, or whatever the technical term is. And I don't think it added up. So yeah, here we go. Nearly 700 season ticket holders had, whatever the term is, released their season ticket for this game, which would then imply that we're down to, the official attendance is 30,044. Obviously, if you get it down to the math, there's maybe a little bit less. We sold 3,400 tickets, which technically would mean we should have an attendance of roughly 29,000. My math, feels like it could be wrong. And I was, seeing comments from people in the ground saying there's no way there's 4,000 empty seats in this stadium. Maybe people didn't turn up, but it feels weird that 3,000 people didn't turn up. That feels like a lot of people. Maybe if it was, 500, I could believe it. It feels a bit weird. I'm not sure. One, if it is wrong, why it is wrong, and two, if they're not telling the truth, why aren't they telling the truth, and are they telling the truth? I don't really know. Quite a lot of questions.
One for Gary Mysteries maybe in the future there, Luke. But certainly from me watching it on the most blurred feed I think I've ever watched on Bet365, like I managed to magnify it somehow, but the quality was just not great. It was like watching bloody Minecraft. Is that the game?
Yeah.
Block people wander around the football pitch, which made it very interesting to report on Saturday night. I think there was a small cluster, I'm told, in the West Stand that would looked a little bit empty, but again, nothing that looked anywhere near, 3,500 or nearly 4,000 less. Sorry, Luke. Do you think there's a bit of bad math going on here? Yeah.
I think there's definitely a bit of bad math, and I dare say this bad math's been going on for a few seasons now. However, this one is the most confusing of all. I know we messaged Matt, who were in the ground, obviously, the other day, and just says, Matt, they're basically saying there's 4,000 empty seats. Is that true? Whether an area that we can't see? He did say that there was a strangely empty section in the West Stand, I believe, or something, but he said definitely not these kind of numbers. I mean, even the Mirandes fans, I think they took about 200 or something, when he showed you the little clip when they scored. So, yeah, really strange one. But interestingly, you say there about the ticketing system where season ticket holders, if they are not attending a game, they can effectively sell that back to the club. This benefits them and benefits all fans. The season ticket holders who are selling the ticket back, I believe it goes towards a 40% discount for next season's ticket. So for anybody who is actually really scared about getting tickets, like we all have been at some point, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And it seems like Malaga have actually used their head about this.
Just to jump in on that ticket thing, I jumped on the website on Friday or Thursday. When did the tickets go on sale? I can't remember exactly.
Well, when did we get our message, Nick, for the membership thing? Monday, Tuesday, right?
Well, I didn't get the message originally because my email address on the system was wrong. So again, when I didn't get an alert for it, and I was like, this is weird. And I go on to email them and said, I can't get an access. I need my PIN or something. And he said, oh, no problem. Here's your PIN. Here's your thing. My phone number was only 6 digits long. My email address was Nick Bell Flied. I was like, what? And so it was all a mess. But now that I'm on there, now that I'm registered, I'm all fine. I can get access to it. I think tickets have gone on sale today at 4 o'clock Spanish time. I think they're going, but for the same system we've had previously. So it'll be available for season ticket holders, owners of the Carne Malaguista membership cards, and then the rest of them will be made available from Thursday morning, if I remember rightly, for anyone else who wants to buy a ticket.
So I went on sale. I went to look on Thursday or Friday, and there were still tickets available, and it seemed, it wasn't like I looked at the options. There wasn't like every section was sold out. It was like one ticket here and one ticket there. It did feel like there were tickets available. So it gives me confidence that going forward, those people who don't have season tickets or Carne Malaguistas, that it might be doable to get tickets. It won't be as hard as perhaps we previously thought.
Yeah, interestingly, I've just clicked on the tickets for the Albacete game, which Nick rightly says they came out 25 minutes ago. So again, you can basically click on any part of the ground, and it does seem like there's plenty of tickets. This, again, like Nick said, is for the Carne Malaguistas and the people on the season ticket waiting list. However, for example, for anybody watching on YouTube, that is how many tickets come available in certain sections from the start. Interestingly, again, 5 through 8 is nowhere on the list, so it looks like they have packed the Geary section, shall we say, full out with season tickets this season.
Yes, no, I think it'd be very much hard to get a ticket in 5 through 8 unless you're borrowing a season ticket, maybe from one of the Geary Army members. But like you say, Alex, it doesn't look like it's going to be as difficult as we first thought. And if you go to Malaga as often as some of us do, and you think actually it might be worth getting a Carne Malaguista membership card, you can access it through email as well. A couple of guys who we speak to have managed to email the club. They've sent them all the details, and then they just fire them over a payment link and say, pick it up when you're next here. But it means you can get those access to the tickets a bit earlier than usual as well. So we will look forward to the Albacete game later on the week in the match preview. However, we're going to review the Mirandes game now. Just a quick note as well, there was a brilliant recognition and a bit of a respectful moment of silence for Malaga fans who have fortunately passed away this year, or passed away over the summer, I should say. Very well observed, Luke, wasn't it? And again, quite nice to see from the club, really, isn't it, when you've got so many people in there.
Yeah, I always think it's a fantastic honour of every fan. Been there 2 or 3 times when they've done the minute silence or minutes applause or even the minutes orchestra, shall we say, or something, and it really is respect, and you feel every emotion for it, even people you don't know. But I think it's a great thing from the club, and I believe every club around Spain does it for the first home game of the season.
Yeah, I think it's just a way good to catch up, and one of them as well was for Dioni's father as well, wasn't it, Alex? So again, a bit of an emotionally charged game for our centre forward. But going into that first starting 11, there was a couple of changes ranked by Pellicer. He brought in Carlos Puga for Joaquin, brought in Einar for Nelson Monte, and he brought in Daniel Lorenzo for Aaron Ochoa Maloney. Luke, were you happy to see that starting 11? Were those the right players to bring in, or would you have liked to see anyone who started last time keep their place?
I dare say it's still very, very early in the season. So these kind of rotations, I haven't really got anything bad to say about it. Obviously, Einar coming in for the injured Nelson Monte. Puga and Joaquin are similar kind of players, both steady away. Danny Lorenzo probably going to feature slightly more than Aaron Ochoa Maloney this season. So, yeah, again, you can't really fault any of these moves.
No, Alex, I said in the preview show that I thought Danny Lorenzo and Carlos Puga would be my 2 I'd bring in. We happy to see them both start and really make a name for themselves or a claim in this side.
Yeah, and I think throughout the season, I think I don't want to see chopping and changing every week, but I think it's good to give players a run out if they need it. And I think when you look at the squad that we have, I'm not too worried about, having a thin squad. I think we've got enough players. And I think when you look at these players who are perhaps not starting, I know it's only 2 games in, it is important to get them a run out, because you don't want them sitting on the bench for, a couple of months, and then it comes to November and someone's injured and you need to chuck them in. So, yeah, good to see a bit of variation here and there. And, well, we'll talk more about the performance later, but I feel like next week there might be a few more changes.
Yeah, I think I think it was you who said it last week, Luke. It's kind of when you are feeling your way into a season, you tend to have different chops and changes in starting 11. But that's usually when you have a lot of new signings. Obviously, we're only seeing a handful of them at the minute. You'd think that Pellicer coming into season would definitely know his best starting 11 already, wouldn't you?
You would, or you'd like to think about it, but how many times did we ask ourselves this question in February and March last season? If I were a manager and I'd had a pre-season. But I mean, saying that as well, you've got to think Tarragona only 2 months ago, effectively. We had a very, very short pre-season. I don't know. I dare say it's going to take a good 6, 7, 8 games for Pellicer to know his trusted 11, I dare say, at this level.
Yeah, I really would do. Discipline is always something that I know is on Pellicer's mind, Alex. You can pretty much bet your mortgage on if someone picks up a booking before the end of the first half, he's getting hooked off at 60 minutes by Pellicer. In this game, we had early bookings for Victor Garcia and also for Juanpe. We kind of had similar early bookings in Ferrol as well. Again, is this just a matter of us being a bit slower than our opposition at the minute? Are we trying to catch up to the pace, or is Discipline looking like it's going to be a bit dodgy this season? This ref looked very card happy to me, though, to be fair. So again, I don't know if it's his fault rather than ours.
I think it also does come down to, like you say, the ref. And I don't know whether, if it feels, obviously the refereeing at Primera level was all right. But I feel like when we go into Segunda, obviously we have VAR back now, which I completely forgot about actually until I was watching the highlights back again today and thought, oh yeah, that could happen at some point this season. But I think it's very much a game-to-game situation where people will, the referees will be card happy, referees will be a bit more strict on certain things, and in a game like that where it wasn't a brilliant game, it was a bit scrappy, I feel like the cards are going to come out. But yeah, it's definitely a game-to-game thing. I think it's something we can't really look at as a trend.
No, and Victor Garcia as well, Luke, just to push his button a little bit, wasn't massively impressive up in Ferrol last weekend. Early doors in this match against Mirandes looked very, very sluggish would be the word I'd use. He looks like a completely different player to what we saw last season so far. I know we're only 2 games in, but is this a bit of a worry because we have him, we have Dani Sanchez? It doesn't feel like the left back area for Malaga is really strong at the minute.
No, you're dead right. Just Dani Sanchez. I mean, I do really like Dani Sanchez, and I think he comes across as an amazing player for the club. Whether he'll be good enough for this level or not, I'm not too sure. But yeah, like you say with Victor, I don't know if he's lacking confidence or he just seems to be switching off. But I mean, he picked the early yellow up, which on a different day in Spain may have even been a little bit more. But 2 minutes later, he has a perfect crossing position, to which that is where his money is. That is where he generally puts a good ball in. He whips it straight into the second tier of the stand behind the goal. And I dare say he gave the ball away 3 or 4 times as well. But yeah, quite concerned about Victor at the moment.
Yeah, his crossing was really off. I think there was a couple of times in the second half as well where, again, you've got Rocco Baturina just waiting in the middle, sort of, quite a big centre forward, big number 9, and we're aiming balls at the back post or even, like you say, Luke, into the corner spaces to try and find La Rubia, and it's like it's just not adding up for us at the minute. But one player who I was impressed with to start with, but obviously, unfortunately, had to come off with a slight injury was Kevin. as we mentioned in the preview or in the news before we did this bit, it was like he said he had a pain in his hamstring, basically. But he was really getting into the ribs of the Mirandes players, Alex. He looked lively in this first half, I thought by far he was our best player.
Yeah, I like to see, tenacity. I think Mirandes as well, it felt like a feisty game. We were getting into them well, and I think, this is something, especially in Segunda, I feel like with the step up in quality, if you're more, I find when the physicality goes up, you can sometimes upset teams' rhythm, and I like to see that from our players. And generally within reason, obviously we're not going to be doing karate kicks like Hanado, but I think I like to see that step up in physicality within reason.
Yeah, it looked, as I said, Luke, with Kevin, he was really getting involved in the game. He drew a lot of fouls from the right back as well. But this injury looked like it stemmed from him doing a bit of breakdancing on the floor, like he was just trying to keep the ball in possession. He was just spinning around in his arse. So again, I hope he's not injured himself by doing that, has he?
It's funny you say that, Nick, because obviously I was sat in a tent watching this game, and on my notes, for any former wrestling fans, I put the spinneroonie. He did a Booker T spinneroonie, and yeah, like you say, he just pulled somewhere. I mean, you look at the replay, you can't really see too much, but he felt it straight away. He had to come off, and I don't know. I hope it's not, but it seems a bit of a story of Kevin's career, like the ups of last week, and you're thinking, right, here, let's kick on a bit. And then potentially, if he has, say, torn his hamstring or anything, we might not be seeing Kevin for 8 weeks.
Yeah, and again, it's clearly a position we're starting to get a little bit light on, which is not good for us, really. But Lobetta came on. He had an instant impact last week in Ferrol with that cross to play in Antonito for his goal. But unfortunately, this time around, it was Mirandes who stole the initiative. I want to say against the run of play, but I don't think either team really had control of this match in the first half. But it was Panicelli, who I think said on Twitter that he sounds like a loaf of Italian bread. He rises highest from a very long cross from the right-hand side. For me, both centre-backs had a long time to see this, but the number 9 reaches it first. Great header into the bottom corner. Alfonso Herrero completely grounded to his line. Alex, this is a good goal by Mirandes, or actually is it really bad defending from Malaga?
I was stuck on this, to be honest. I think the more I look at it, I can appreciate it. It was a good goal, good cross, good header. He got up to it. But then also, if he can get up to it, so can the defenders. And when you're allowing him to get, that is their job. To be honest, that is the most important job of a defender, to mark a striker when the ball comes in and to get the header in. I don't care how you do it. You get in front of him or you get behind him. It is their job. And yes, sometimes the striker is going to have a leap on him. Sometimes it's going to be that stroke of luck where the cross is just going to be perfect and you just can't reach it. But I do feel like there are ways to, contribute or to counteract that. You've got to be better at positioning. You've got to be a bit more on the ball. And I feel like it did feel a bit like when I look at I think it was Einar, wasn't it, behind the striker, if I remember correctly?
I think it was, so it was Pastor in front and Einar behind, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, it kind of looked like both of them, Pastor was, oh God, I'm not going to get it. And Einar was like, oh God, he's not going to get it. I'm going to try and reach it. So it did feel a bit sort of, there wasn't enough communication going on in the defence, but also at the end of the day, it was a good cross and it was a good goal.
Yeah, it seemed to fit on a plate for Panicelli, and not to take anything away from him either, because he did really well to get his head to it. But sometimes, Luke, I know you've played on every position on a football field, even as a centre-back, and you're not going to out-jump a centre forward. You employ the dark arts a little bit, don't you? You lean in maybe, or get your body underneath so it puts them off their centre direction. For me, Einar and Pastor in this just leapt alongside him and didn't really interfere with him whatsoever. It kind of felt like he had a free hit.
Yeah, I think Alex said it perfectly regarding the main thing with this were poor communication in my eyes at the back. You've effectively got your 2 centre halves, but then we also play with a holding midfielder. So you've got one centre forward darting between three. I mean, don't get me wrong, like you've just said, the header from Panicelli. If I'm scoring that goal as a centre forward, that is a really, really good header to beat a standing Alfonso Herrero who normally chucks his body at anything. Initially, the problem for me were, again, out wide, Victor Garcia has gave him so much time to deliver this.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, I mean, who were on the left wing at the time? Obviously, Kevin had just gone. It might have been Lebete. Between the two of them, this guy's got the Mirandes winger has got the ball, picked the ball out, and again, for him to pull off whether Einar coming towards Pastor, there's got to be some communication there. So for me, this goal could have been easily avoided.
Yeah, you can even kind of see Alfonso Herrero trying to, guess would be the right word to use, or at least assume where the header's going to go to. You think anyone that's coming for a header at the near post from across, from basically the touchline, as you said, Luke, it wasn't like chipped in from the 18-yard box. You're thinking this is going to be glancing towards the back post. So I can see why Herrero's moving that way, but the way he's reached up there and managed to head it into the ground basically was, again, really, really good from Panicelli. And you kind of got to respect that. And he was kind of a bit like that all game. He really gave Einar especially a bit of a rough evening in that perspective. But
it sounded like a bit of a Roberto kind of feel to him. A player who, I was going to say wouldn't get you 25 goals a season, but obviously how Roberto basically did. But someone was going to run that line and run the channels all day long.
So it certainly would be a way if Rocco Baturina was to play like Panicelli did more often or not this season. I'd be very impressed with how he played as well. And for me in this first half, unfortunately for Malaga's new number 9, he had absolutely no service at all. But I would say that the goal did spark a reaction, not just from the crowd, but also from the players on the pitch. So, going into those final knockings of that first half, I think Malaga did try to take the game back to Mirandes a little bit, Alex, kind of show a bit more worth about how they're playing.
Yeah, I think, generally the goal, I know when this is always the case, and it feels frustrating saying it, but when you go behind, it does kind of kick you into gear. And, we had the lion's share of possession. I think it was 68% in the first half or 63%, and then even more in the second half. So we did feel like we were coming into life, but definitely in that final third, it did feel still, I don't know, we just lacked that killer pass, killer touch, killer shot. And it felt a bit flat, not just after the goal, but throughout the whole game, really. Yeah,
I'd say the only effort we had on goal in that first half, Luke, was when it was fed into the feet of Danny Lorenzo about 15 yards from goal, wasn't he? He managed to sort of pirouette himself into a bit of a space, got his shot away, but he dragged it really, didn't it? And I think it wasn't really going to trouble Fernandez in the Mirandes goal. But again, when you look at the entire first half, on the sum of its parts, in front of 26,000 home fans as well, who have been building up anticipation to this first game. We saw the scenes pre-match and the walk into the grounds. We can hear the noise while it's in there. It's a bit disappointing, really, isn't it? I thought the first half was absolutely crap from Malaga, and it was actually didn't feel worth watching that 45 minutes.
No, you did right. I honestly thought we were terrible that first half. We had a lot of the ball, but again, didn't create anything. I mean, I'm not even talking we had 5 shots way over at bar. I don't mind a player shooting. We did nothing. We had the ball. We did the usual attack out wide, and then either it's a poor ball or we start again and then lose the ball. And it's not like it were 2 poor teams, this, because even when you look at Mirandes had at least 3 shots on target, a couple off target. I don't know if you can remember, but literally just before halftime, I think it was Panicelli again. He had an header, a simple save for Herrero, but he tipped it over and the camera went to Herrero and you could see the frustration in his face, just thinking, what are we doing here? Wake up. And like you just said, Nick, the crowd did reply. I don't really think the players did, but we're all sat there as Sergio Pellicer's thinking, what the hell can we do at halftime then?
Is that how used we've become to having Herrera in goal? Because I felt like that save was probably one of the better saves I've seen from him. I mean, the acrobatic nature of it, just to sort of, it was. I mean, I don't think it was going in. Maybe it would have hit the bar, but it felt like a very good save for me.
I just think he's that good.
Yeah, he's your absolute get out of jail free card sometimes, isn't he? But I think when you put on the point of pace there, and I'll ask this to you, Alex. For me, last year in Primera, we played very horizontal football, side to side, wait for a moment's opportunity, try and find a gap, to play in like a Roberto, like we did last season, or try and play someone behind the lines. You could see that in both the Ferrol game and in the Mirandes game, they both like to play very vertical. It was very get up there and get a cross in and see if we can get a knockdown or an opportunity on goal. Are we going to suffer this season by not adopting a similar approach, or are we thinking if we persevere with this possession-based game, we can pick up draws here and there and the odd win? I can't really see where Pacer can move to a vertical system at this moment in time. That's my only concern.
No, and I really dislike that style of play. Not always I really like when it works. I think it works brilliantly. But to make it work well, you have to have players in your midfield. Unfortunately, to make it work really well, you have to have in your midfield Sergio Busquets, Xavi and Iniesta. And unfortunately, we don't have that sort of players. We have, with no offence to them, Molina and Juanpe. And I think this is quite often my gripe with Spanish football in general. The lower you go, they are still trying to play that passing football, that nice style of football, which obviously they've been taught as they're growing up. But to be quite frank, they're not good enough to play that sort of football. You look at English teams, yes, there are teams in the lower divisions in England, Yeovil are one of them, unfortunately, trying to play this nice brand of possession football. But unfortunately, it just doesn't work if you're not good enough, and it doesn't produce the results. And if you're going into a game hoping to pass the game into oblivion and bore the hell out of the opposition and nick a goal at the end, is not the sort of attitude I want from a team that should be in 5 years' time, hopefully, trying to look at getting promoted. 5 years' time maybe feels like ambitious, but yeah, I feel like personally at this level, with the quality of players we have, I really dislike possession-based football. I think I'd much rather see direct passing. I don't want to see us lumping it forward. There's a difference. Direct passing, quick passes through the final third. Use the flanks. We did use the flanks well in parts, but then we drift back to possession-based football, and it really frustrates me to see the persistence of, I want to play this nice brand of football. I get it, but it just really doesn't work when your players aren't good enough, and our players aren't good enough.
Yeah, I think, and it's definitely where you've pulled on that string of having a double pivot in there of Juanpe and Molina. Juanpe, who was, completely unplayable last week, anonymous in that first half, he was hooked at half time and replaced with Aaron Ochoa Maloney, who we will always full name on this podcast. None of this Aaron Ochoa bollocks. But he is definitely more the kind of player where you can then spin it on its head, sit with one holding midfielder in Molina, and then Danny Lorenzo and Aaron Ochoa Maloney up above them. And that's when it appeared to me that we did seem to be able to actually push forward a lot more in the second half, Luke. Was that the change we needed to make there? We needed to come, less flat and go a bit more dynamic?
Yeah, I think I would have liked a few more, to be honest. But to me, this one was a perfect change. I think this week, like you've just said, regarding Juanpe and Ferrol, it was fantastic. This week, he seemed to revert to the more familiar Juanpe, what we know. And again, like you've just said, Aaron Ochoa Maloney is a forward-thinking player. Every time he gets the ball, he's trying to create something, whether it's out wide or inside. And yeah, I believe that Pellicer got this change correct.
Yeah, no, I feel like Aaron Ochoa Maloney he looks mature for what he does as well, and he seemed to simplify a lot of things going forward. He brought in Labete and David Larubia a lot more, and more importantly, got closer to Rocco Batarina. In this second half, especially, it seemed like Rocco and latterly Dioni were more involved in this game. Something that we didn't like to see was a bit more shithousery, a bit more dark arts from Mirandes. So much time wasting after they got that first goal, Alex. It just felt like they were rolling around on the floor, kicking the ball out, taking time getting back up again. It was, is this Segunda for us? It didn't feel like we had a lot of this last year.
Yeah, I think also with that, trying to be too offensive towards them, I think that was very Mirandes. I think, they look at the way we've talked about how they've built a squad over the last 5 years. They are looking for that. We're going to make life difficult for teams when we travel or when we play at home, and whether that is time wasting or bringing in a bit of, as I heard on Match of the Day yesterday, housery instead of the word.
I don't like. They need to say it out loud. Pay our license fee.
But yeah, I think that is just how they set out to play. They look like, as we saw in the first half, they got the goal. They were happy with that. That was it. They were looking to come away with the 3 points. Obviously, they weren't too bothered about getting the second. It was that very much nick a goal, set up shop, and head on home when the game finishes. And it very much felt like a pre-planned tactic. And I think, thankfully, we got a goal. And I always hate to see it. Even I hate to see it when Malaga play like that. We don't, thankfully, play like that quite often. But I do hate it when I watch teams and it's, holding the ball in the corner when you've got a corner and they pass it to someone who's 2 feet away and they try and hold the ball. I just hate that sort of, it's anti-football, I guess, is the term that we use nowadays. They definitely were a very anti-football team on Saturday.
Yeah, it felt like, and you just touched on it there as well, Alex. We went chasing the equaliser. We brought off Rocco Battery and replaced him with Dioni. We brought off Larubia and brought on Antonito to, much applause. He's really a homegrown hero now, isn't he? And it wasn't too long, only 10 minutes until they got their just rewards. Dioni at the near post from a corner just gets his foot onto it, basically, doesn't it? And it finds its way into the back of the net. I want to say this might be Dioni's first goal at Segunda level, but don't confirm me on that one. Don't hold me to that one, because I know he's obviously the top goal scorer in the Primera divisions, but I don't think he's made the jump up too many times to Segunda. Luke, you could see how much that goal meant to him for more than one reason, but a brilliant take from him, wasn't it? And hopefully the first of many for him this season.
Yeah, for a fantastic goal. He left his man for yards, basically. Hit his foot and just crawled into the bottom corner. But a huge goal for Dioni after such an emotional week for himself and his family. With, like mentioned earlier, the passing of his father. It's going to mean so much for him grabbing his first goal. Again, I believe you are correct, Nick. His first goal at this level. I'll be honest, I hope he gets a chance now, because regarding Rocco, I don't know if it's the way we play or anything, but I don't think we're getting him involved. It's nothing against him as a guy. He's not had any chances. He's not really had the ball. I don't know. Maybe Dioni dropping a little bit deeper may bring the likes of maybe Antonito in the next couple of weeks. I don't know. I'm just struggling to see what Rocco was bringing for us as a centre forward at the moment, whether that's the style of play, what needs to change or anything. But yeah, delighted for Dioni.
Yeah, I felt for Rocco in this game, because it kind of felt like early days Roberto at some points last season, where he was doing a lot of running, but just there was nothing. There was no service for him. But in this second half, especially when Dioni and Antonito came on, plus with Aaron Ochoa Maloney, it felt like we were getting more and more service into this one. And after this goal, dare I say, you kind of thought that the wind was with Malaga a little bit, and you thought maybe with the crowd behind them, the players, the way they're playing, we could actually go for this and maybe grab a win.
Yeah, no, we definitely. I think that goal fired us up, and I think you said it there. The crowd, the atmosphere. You guys have been there plenty of times when we score, even if we're behind. The team, it does give them that lift, and I think that's going to be a big thing this season. If the crowd can get behind them more often, we can really spur them on. Hopefully, it doesn't just happen after a goal. Just to jump on the Dioni statistic there, it's actually his second goal at this level. He scored one for Hercules back in the 2013-14 season. He's played 18 games at this level, scored 2, and got 1 assist.
He's quite prolific at this level then.
And I like it more that he's done it for Hercules as well. You know what I mean? Like, if there's any club that I'd like him to have done this at this level for, it's definitely Hercules on that front. But But yeah, and as you were saying, Alex, we looked good for it. I think Antonito had a couple of sights of goal when he came on. There was obviously Anna Chora Maloney rifled one down Fernandez's throat. Anywhere else at that goal, he's scoring. It's just great position from the keeper and good hands from him. Mirandes then turn it on its head a little bit. They go up top, an absolute thunderstrike, as you've called it, Luke, from outside the box. Left Herrero backpedaling, scrambling a little bit to get towards his back post. We were quite lucky with that one, really, weren't we?
Yeah, this really was an unbelievable effort. Like, little back lift. It didn't really look like he put his laces through it. He just curled it. I mean, he had Alfonso Herrero beating all hands up. But I don't know if you guys picked up on it as well. It hit the bar and then like the top of the netting bulged up. I thought it were like you, Nick. I was sat watching it on Bet365 and I thought it were in.
I thought it got in. I was like, that's definitely either hit the bar and gone in or it's just rippled the back of the net. And it was only when we saw the replay that it's bounced, fortunately about 3 yards away from the line that, we've gone, shit, we've got lucky there, basically. And I think, like I say, Alex, this is what Segunda's going to be about this season, isn't it? A team can come and get you at any single point. This is the disparity in quality between Segunda and Primera Federación, is that you can get punished in an instant, can't you?
You can. And, I've made this in my notes. I think at the end, I've gone, want to see improvement, but not time for panic stations. That's what I've written down. I think, these first 2 games, we've had glimpses of play where we've done well, for that brief part when Kevin scored, felt like the top of the world again. And then obviously Antonito and those 10 minutes after Dioni scored. But you're not going to get anywhere. And to be quite frank, you're going to get relegated if you're clutching at 10-minute periods of decent play. So if we're going to avoid relegation this season, and if we're going to be, as we perhaps predicted, I'm not maybe saying your prediction, Nick, 10th at the moment, feels a long way away. But if we're going to get somewhere near to where Luke and I predicted, we have to do a whole lot better, because so far it feels harsh saying this, but it's been diabolical, really.
Yeah, I've still got sneaky faith, but it's waning by the hour on that one. Maybe one more mention of note. There was a certain Alex Calvo on the bench. He signed for Mirandes earlier in the week on loan from Andorra, who he only left us for 1.2 million last summer. He came on in the 89th minute. Lots of boos, lots of whistles. Did you like that, Luke, or did it really feel a bit like, I don't know, there's people online calling him a rat. I don't feel like I saw enough of him to call him a rat so far. He was still just a kid who played less than 10 games for Malaga before he departed for big money. Was this harsh, or were you all for it?
Yes and no. I mean, he earns a very good amount of money for 12 games or something.
Yeah.
So for that, I think it's very harsh. The other hand, I don't know. I think he wanted to jump ship as soon as the relegation were confirmed, where in truth, you're thinking he could really at that age have been the poster boy for our promotion season. Look, we're all football fans and we don't know what goes through the minds, but end of the day, Malaga got relegated and it were looking very sour for ourselves. He got offered the chance to go back up a league. Why not go for it? So I do think it's a little bit harsh. I do.
Same things happened again. Incidentally, he's been offered to go back up a league on loan to Mirandes, and he's taken it with both hands. Sporting a new haircut as well.
He doesn't look the young boy what left Malaga anymore.
No, I just got to come on to that. He seems like he's definitely grown up a bit, got himself a new, as we were talking about mullets earlier, Alex, a bit like of a part mullet type look. He looks the part really for Segunda, doesn't he?
He does. I think it was to be expected. I think Matt and I were talking about this in the week, and I think it was even on the preview pod we talked about this, how, had he stayed at Malaga, got a run of games, had a good season at Primera and then come up, he's obviously settled in the squad. He could have done really well. But, yeah, it feels like one of those careers that potentially hasn't fulfilled its potential. That's not to say he's going to go on to bigger and better things than Mirandes, with all due respect to Mirandes. But at the moment, it remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think we did mention it on the preview show last week. It's Mirandes is a good shop window, let's put it that way, or a great proofing ground for Segunda. And then obviously we see some of the players that have gone on to play in La Liga in recent years for their respective clubs. But we will keep an eye on Alex Calvo from a distance. So 1-1 then, guys. 2 draws on the bounce for Malaga. Dare I say unbeaten so far. Was that a fair result, Luke? We are happy with that given the way the game had been performed?
For me, the draw, yeah, definitely the fair result. I wasn't happy. I really wasn't happy. But, I mean, I tweeted out straight away, a draw's better than a loss, obviously. Again, as you say, Nick, I use the term loosely, we are unbeaten still. Mirandes had chances to get the 3 points. Malaga had a lot of the ball, but throughout for the 90 minutes struggled to really create anything. I think we had 2 shots on target. It's not really good enough. I think the frustrating thing for me, again, is the defensive work. Like we were so strong at the back last season, and we've conceded 3 goals in 2 games now. And when you look at them 3 goals, every one could have been avoided. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we currently could be sat here with 6 points out of 6, and certain Nick Bell getting very happy about his 10th position prediction, and me and Alex getting a little bit nervous rather than ours. But yeah, I don't know if it's concentration or anything, but I'd just like to really see him tighten up on that area.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you say, you can put it down on, especially maybe for 3 of the goals, so to 1 player potentially. But yeah, we can look forward to maybe resurrecting that a little bit against Albacete. Again, not to go into too much detail, because obviously we have a preview hour coming out later this week. But what does need to be improved? If you could summarise, I suppose you said it perfectly before, actually.
Yeah, I think they need to be more clinical. I think we had somewhere near 70. I know it's not all about the stats, but I do quite like reading into the stats, and it shows how is unclinical a word? I don't even know how clinical we aren't, and how I think we had near to 70 entries into the final third and 2 shots on target. That is shocking, to be honest. And 68% of the possession against a team like Mirandes, who aren't the best. And yeah, there's lots of things to improve, and hopefully they can do it. Well, Peter can get those improvements in before this weekend.
Yeah, there's some tougher games coming up, and that's be the one thing I take from this. I thought this was especially for a first 2 or 3 games of the season, quite a lenient welcome back into Segunda. So just before we round up then, I suppose I best ask you for your Chumbos and Biznagas. Luke Chambers, I'm going to come for your Chumbo first, please, sir.
Very, very, very easy one. Victor Garcia. I like Victor, but I honestly believe that this was one of the worst performances I've seen in a Malaga shirt for years, and we've seen some bad performances in that time.
Yes, definitely. I will put my hat on to that one as well and say Victor Garcia would 100% be my Chumbo for this week. Alex?
Yeah, I'm going to make it 3 from 3. Getting a booking. I think he was in the conversation for it last week, or did he get it last week? I can't remember.
I think he got it last week. Yeah.
So maybe time for a change at left back. I don't know whether Danny Sanchez is someone that Peter wants to. I know he's played quite a few games last season, and we know that Peter isn't afraid of making those changes. So hopefully that's one that he can make at the back.
Yeah, well, he's contracted him for this season, so he must want him around for a reason. But even if it was just to give, Victor Garcia that, take him out the firing line a little bit, give him a rest maybe. But yeah, much to improve for our left back. So I will go to Luke for our Biznaga.
Quite a tough one, really, but it's got to be El Capitan, Alfonso Don Herrero. He made 2 or 3 good saves, but for normal goalkeepers, great saves. Yeah, it's what we kind of expect from him. But an honourable mention again for Aaron Maloney. I like the way he plays, always forward thinking. And I don't know about you guys, I commented on the season preview maybe that if he has a big pre-season, knuckles down, he's going to come back a hell of a player, and he just looks a bigger build, more confident, everything. So I'm very excited for Aaron Maloney, but it is for Don Alfonso Herrero.
Another one for Don Alfonso. My one for this one, I was going to go with an honourable mention for Kevin in the first half and Aaron Ochoa-Maloney in the second half. But for an overall game, I thought Carlos Puga was very good in this match. Not a lot got by him down in that right-hand side, and he even, was trying to engineer a lot from a wing-back position for Malaga as well. Not too much success, but he certainly looked a lot stronger on that side and was the one part of the defence really that I was confident in this match rather than the other three. So mine would go for Puga. Alex, who are you thinking?
I'm going to go with Herrera because I don't think he just does the job every week so well. You forget about him. You think, it's all right. He'll save it. He'll stop that. He'll be on top, and he's brilliant. He's the best goalkeeper I've ever seen in a Malaga shirt, bar maybe Willy Caballero, even maybe alongside Willy Caballero. So once again, he's fantastic.
Big aplomb. I think that is Don Alfonso Herrera picking up probably one of numerous Biznagas this season. The man collects them like roses thrown upon an adorning stage from a crowd. But yeah, I'd agree with all that's been said. One thing I did forget to mention actually was obviously we spoke about Lebetta getting injured earlier in the programme. Obviously very bad for him, but it was Hightam coming back off the bench. Interesting to see him involved. Interesting to see him on the bench. I think, again, he's been brought on a bit too soon, but this was more out of necessity rather than Paysair wanting to use it. So maybe a nice way to end this review pod would be to say nice words about Hightam. Luke, good to see him back.
Yeah, fantastic to see him back. Again, like you've just said, Nick, I don't think he's quite there. But in a game where Malaga were chasing the victory, why not bring a star player on that's been out for a year to raise the crowd, to raise the spirits? I don't think he's going to be starting next week and things like that. It's going to be a slow process. But yeah, fantastic to see Hightam back.
Yeah, and Alex, he looks like he's ready made for this level, doesn't he? But again, a few weeks away from being fully match fit, needs to get some minutes in the legs. But brilliant to see him back on the pitch at La Rosaleda after such a long time out.
Yeah, no, brilliant. I think I second what Luke said. I think he could be a really key player for Malaga this season. Like you said, should he be fit? And I think we said this earlier, you said it, Nick, that we don't want to rush him back in. Although it may seem like we need him, we don't want him getting injured again. So slowly but surely get him back in. And who knows, by the end of the season, we could be talking about player of the season.
Indeed, who knows? Well, that was everything we've got to say about the Mirandes game. We will have a preview of this weekend's match against Albacete coming up later on in this week, especially if you are heading out to watch that game too. Keep your eye on Malaga's social media to get ticket news, or unless you're a Carne Malaguista or a season ticket holder, I'm sure you don't have to worry about that just now. Matt Harrison has recorded a beautiful episode of Vamos a La Rosaleda, the first of the season, and I've heard some clips of it so far, and it does sound very, very wild, very, very interesting, but more importantly, filled to the brim with everything Malaga Club de Football on a match day. And we'll also be looking to introduce you to the second episode of Give You Stories soon, but we won't tell you what it's about. So make sure you keep your eye on our social media for when that gets released. So without further ado, I'll say thank you to you, Alex Ashmore in Madrid.
Thank you very much. And yeah, Vamos Malaga has got those 3 points on, I forget the day, Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday.
I was like that and going, I can't quite remember. That's the preview show. Do things one thing at a time. But no, thank you so much, Alex Ashmore, and I look forward to seeing more of your clips on social media and your predictions and your thoughts and processes. And to Luke Chambers in Doncaster, who's off to Goodison Park tomorrow before it gets demolished. Thank you so much for joining us.
Muchas gracias, amigo. Just want to say, enjoy your weekends in Spain. Paul, Keith, Maggie, Ian, regular listeners to the Geary Cast Award will all be attending at the weekend. A hopefully big 3 points. Vamos Malaga.
Sí, tres grandes puntos would be beautiful right now. And thank you, most important, if you guys listen at home. Like I say, go and like and subscribe to this podcast. Anyway, you can find it really helps us grow, and especially on YouTube as well. And keep your eye on social media for all the latest news straight from La Rosaleda as it gets released. I've been Nick Bell. Thank you so much for listening. Vamos, Malaga. Adios.